Good afternoon, I'm Marc Sumner, host of the Channel Chat podcast show, and today I have the pleasure of Gavin Jones, the Director of Wholesales Channels at BT, in the studio. How are we doing, Mr. Jones?
I am super, thank you very much, and excited about having a chat with you today.
Good, because funny enough, I didn't realise until we spoke at lunch that you know Dave McGinn, because Dave was actually in the studio last week. So tell me about that. Actually, how do you know Dave? How, you've got that relationship with him?
I first met Dave, I think, on a golf course, and I would preface that with neither of us are probably very good golfers. And we went up to Turnberry, which is Donald Trump's course in Scotland. I don't even know the exact location. And we spent, A, we were lucky, we had a gloriously sunny day, and B, we spent 4 hours just going around a golf course, losing golf balls together. So we had a really, really nice day. I'd never met him, actually. And I do know he's a bit of a fitness freak. So I went out for a run, and there was one fella in the gym. Everyone else was in the bar. And, he was in the gym, and I remarked, God, I saw one fella in the gym, and he remarked, God, I saw one fella running around, and that was us. And so we had a day or so there. So it was really good fun. We didn't get caddies, which we should have, because apparently your score improves if you get a caddy, because you never lose a ball. And no, so I met him there, and it was really good. Ever since then, I've caught up with him regularly. We have breakfast every once in a while and catch up at other events. So he's a good person to chat to, just to listen to what he says, how he made his way through life. I think is inspirational and a lot of lessons that everyone can learn.
Absolutely. I had him in the studio last week. His show will go out the week before yours, so in 2 or 3 weeks, so the listeners will be able to listen to his story. But I want to come back to your story because, Gavin, I noticed on your LinkedIn profile, and I started looking at your background, and I thought, why is this guy started as a chartered surveyor? Well, that's on your LinkedIn, it is. So can you give the listeners a bit about your background and how you ended up in your role at BT today?
Yeah, so I won't go very back to the beginning, but I did. Actually, I went to the grammar school in Worcester, and I left when I was 16. I didn't quite get on with the authority and the way school was. And I convinced my parents, and my father was an architect, very, very somber, very serious, that I needed to go and learn business. Actually, I wanted an easier life, and I was thrown out of the technical college after about 4 months for non-attendance, which I got into a bit of trouble at home. And I did a set of various jobs in factories and things like that, and I ended up getting a job for a company called K's, who were computer operators, and I worked on the largest commercial mainframe in Europe, and it was really good. But after 2 years, I just thought, is this it? So I did some A-levels part-time, and I managed to get into Sheffield Polytechnic to do surveying, which, and I love building, I love property, so I did the surveying degree. And I have to say, it kind of demonstrated to me that if you do something you love, education can actually be fun, because I love that course. I still keep up with the people, I still catch up with the people that I was there with. And so I graduated, and I went to Birmingham, and the early 90s were probably a time of industrial decline, you might say, in the West Midlands. And I worked for this surveying firm, and I was doing insolvencies. And so I would tour the West Midlands just as factories were about to get told that they'd gone insolvent, and I would go in and sell the property afterwards. And so I did that, and I kind of enjoyed it. It was a small company, but life isn't about money, but I earned an absolute pittance there. And I qualified as a chartered surveyor, and I just wasn't earning enough money, if it's the truth. And a friend of mine worked at a telecoms company. We worked at this startup in London, and he said, Jonesy, you must come to London. I'm working for this fab company, and they've got some jobs for people that can do property. He was quite posh. I'm not doing a very posh accent. And so I went down to London, and from a probably 1960s office on a side street in Birmingham, I turned up at this beautiful glass building with a still, and I was like, wow, this is it. Had an interview, and they really liked me, and it was for getting space in buildings, all sorts of property related stuff, and they offered me the job literally there and then, and they offered to double my salary, and I was like, wow, this is Christmas. This is good. And no one had told me that drinks cost 3 times as much, rent is twice as much, and everything else. But so I eventually took the job, and it was for a company called MFS Communications, and they were a startup. They were a competitor of Colt, building networks in the financial centres, London, Frankfurt, New York, etc. And so I joined them at age 24. Sorry, I joined them when there were 24 people, not age 24. I was a bit older than that. But literally the company just mushroomed. And after 6 months, it was like, Gavin, we need a bit of help doing the ISO 9000. Would you mind? It was really startup mentality. Everybody did everything. There was no such thing as defined job role. And I don't know how this happened, but I ended up, after about 2 years running service delivery, I've got no idea about service. I had the field engineers, I was in charge of circuit design, project management, and it was just like, wow. I mean, it was fantastic for me, for someone that wants to work hard, for someone that's kind of inquisitive and wants to learn things. It was just, I was a sponge soaking it all up. And so I did that for about 2 or 3 years. I shouldn't say this because I don't want to decry anything that anyone does in service, but you get to a point you're like, crikey, I'm never going to fix this, right? It's like the tide always comes in and you're kind of resourced up for 2 orders a day every day of the week. That doesn't happen. You don't get anything for 6 days. On the 7th day, it's like boom. And our lead times for when they're on our fibre network were 5 days at that point for services, right? You even look nowadays and no one does it. It was a crazy, crazy place. So I did that, and after a few years in service, the internet was booming. I saw all these internet salespeople making a fortune. And I was like, you know what? I'd like to give that a go. And so it was a really close company. I mean, there weren't a lot of formal processes. If you knew people, if you were networked well, they gave you a chance. And so I got a chance in sales. I moved to internet sales, and then it just kind of blossomed from there, account manager, account director, sales manager, and I ended up running the indirect partner channel for them, which was just really good fun. And I did that for a couple of years, and dealing with actually a lot of the companies I deal with now, 20 years ago, most of us are slimmer and got less hair. And,
the stress of the job.
Yeah, the stress of the job. Yeah, no, so it was good. And then BT approached me. And that was 15 years ago. And they said, would you like to come and work with us? And I'd been there probably about 13, 14 years. And I thought, you know what, I'll go for a change. And I joined BT. And actually, I would say, and I've been totally transparent here, the first 6 months, I felt really isolated and quite lonely. You walk into a company that is the size of a small city, like 105,000 people. And sometimes, they have a policy of what they'd call flexible working. So I found it really hard to find a kind of centre, a heart, a community in the business. And I was offered a job after 6 months and somewhere else. And I decided, no, I'm just going to give it one more shot. And kind of after that point, it clicked. And since that point, I mean, I have to say, I've had some brilliant jobs and I've run some massive businesses, and I actually thoroughly enjoyed it. And as we said over lunch, I kind of got this job back in the channel 2 years ago, and I'm having an absolutely whale of a time, absolutely loving it. It's really good.